Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Let's get ready to party. Get myself set up over here. Hope you all had a good weekend. Rough one. It was a rough weekend across the country, right? Um, yeah, it's a little depressing. A little depressing. But look, I had a lot of fun on that live chat Friday, and I put that out there on Apple Podcasts and all that, so you guys can listen to the audio. I hope that you enjoyed that. We'll definitely try to do more of that stuff. And the reaction I got from that show Friday was kind of unexpected. There was a lot of you out there who I think kind of needed that. I guess I was just feeling something in the air that a lot of you out there were feeling, and it was received well. So thank you guys for watching in, and thank you for being here today. So look, I don't know how much you guys want to talk about some of the stuff that's going on in the country right now. I'm willing to talk about it if you'd like to. If you really don't want to, we won't. We won't. We'll just keep it strictly to boxing. Although I do want to talk about this Lance Armstrong documentary a little bit. It was pretty interesting in a lot of different ways. A lot of different ways. Okay, so guys, get on the chat. Um, we were scheduled for 4 o'clock Eastern, so we are a couple minutes early here. But I'm going to go ahead and get the party started over on Spreaker, so you guys can listen live over there. Hello, fight fans. Welcome to episode number 223 of the Neutral Corner Boxing Podcast. I am your host, Michael Montero, and today, open discussion, guys. Anything goes, whatever you want to talk about. We do have some boxing news, but we have a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world right now, particularly here in my country, the United States. You guys want to talk about some of that stuff? You know I'm always willing to talk about whatever you would like to. So I'm looking over here on Spreaker, and of course, there's a broadcasting error. So we're going to try this again. I am going to see if I can relaunch the show on Spreaker as we go live here. I don't know what's going on with my Spreaker, but you know how it is. Let's just see. Episode 223. Let's see if I can go live over on Spreaker. Boom. Let's see. Okay, I think we're live on Spreaker now. I apologize for those of you listening live to the audio podcast on Spreaker. We tried to go live a second ago and it shut down, but it looks like we're good now. We reestablished that feed. So you guys, you can either watch on YouTube, of course, like always, or you could listen on Spreaker. And then after that live feed goes out in Spreaker, it's going to go everywhere, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. As always, I remind you guys, please give me that like, give me that follow, that subscription, and share the show. Get the word out about the show. That helps me a lot. I'm struggling with my voice. I kind of have I don't want to say a sore throat, but like I'm losing my voice because I've been talking a lot today. I've been on the phone with a lot of friends and family members. Some of it's boxing related, some articles I'm writing for ringtv.com, which should be out this week, so you can look for that stuff. But also just some of the things that are going on in the world and in the country over this past weekend. Tiffany and I spent the weekend on curfew. We literally were not allowed to leave our house after 9 o'clock p.m. Saturday night. Saturday night, we had worked in the yard all day and done stuff here in the house, and we were not allowed to leave our house. We could have been arrested because there was a curfew in our neighborhood here in Atlanta. So, because of assholes out doing some really messed up shit that had nothing to do with the tragedy that took place recently in Minnesota that should have never happened. Some officers on the force who should have never been on the force, career losers who were allowed to murder a man, um, are hundreds of miles away from that, and idiots wanted to make some shit about them. And because of that, innocent people like me and my soon-to-be wife were stuck at home on curfew all fucking weekend. So go figure. But hey, me just expressing that frustration, that's going to trigger some of you out there. That's the world we live in right now. Hashtag 2020. Gotta love it, baby. 2020 just keeps getting better. Anyway, guys, phone lines are open. Again, open discussion today. Whatever you'd like to discuss. And of course, you guys watching live on YouTube, get in the chat. And, anything you guys want to talk about, get it in there. Anyway, so look, Next Saturday, June 13th, is my 41st birthday. So there will be no show June 15th, that Monday. So we'll have a show next week. And the week after that, we won't have a show. I'll actually be out of town. Tiff and I are just getting out of town for a few days and trying to get away from everything and just unplug for a few days to celebrate my 41st birthday. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up. I'll give you a heads up again next Monday, on next Monday's show. And as far as boxing goes, we are getting back to it, guys. Slowly but surely, we're getting back to it. I've talked about this a little bit recently. We have a few club shows coming up in June. And basically, you're going to start getting Tuesday and Thursday night fights from Top Rank. Now, some of these shows are not necessarily great. A lot of these shows are showcase type of fights, right? Showcase type of fights, mismatches, however you want to word it. And I understand a lot of your frustration about that. I don't think mismatches should ever be defended. I don't like showcase fights. In this situation, I'm kind of willing to give it a pass. And here's the thing, guys. If you don't want to watch Shakur Stevenson fight this Puerto Rican cab driver on Tuesday, Tuesday, June 9, then don't watch. Don't watch. You know what I'm saying? But you don't have to watch. You're not being forced to. But if you want to watch, watch. Me, I'm kind of interested. I'm going to watch, not necessarily because I'm just starved for boxing or starved for sports. There's plenty of old school fights I can punch up and watch. I'm interested to see just how it looks, just the way that they shoot everything, the way everything's lit, the studio setup, the audio, the acoustics of it all. I'm kind of morbidly curious. And that's why I'm going to be watching more than anything else, is just to see the way they do the show. I want to see how it looks, how it sounds, how it feels. And then we're going to talk about that. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to watch the shows coming up on June 9, June 11. And then, again, unfortunately, I won't have a podcast that following Monday, but maybe I'll do a rant video or something before I head out of town for the weekend for my birthday. A couple of you guys asking my age. I'm going to be 41. 41. Not, I think one of you guys said 44. Nah, so I'm going to be 41 years old. And yeah, man, I think I'm looking all right for my 40s. I think I'm getting around all right. Super chat pledge from Trent. Thank you so much, Trent. I appreciate that. He says, yo, Mike, have you checked out 6'7" Uzbek heavyweight Jalalov yet? I feel he is the only heavyweight prospect that can compete with Dubois. I haven't, dude. Let's look this dude up. Let's see. Jalalov. BoxRec. Let's take a look at this guy. All right. Uzbeki professional boxer, 25 years old, 6'6". Hey, what do I say about these Uzbeks? Oh, yeah. Oh, no. You know what? I've seen this dude. Hell yeah. Now I'm just checking out the picture. I actually remember his pro debut against, Hugo Trujillo. And, because he fights out of Brooklyn. You know what I'm noticing about the Uzbeks? There's a group of them kind of East Coast based, and there's a group of them West Coast based, which is interesting to me. You're kind of getting a group that's coming up out of Brooklyn and that area. There's even some Uzbek guys training in Detroit. And then you have a group of them on the West Coast as well. But I'm telling you guys, over the next 3, 4, 5 years, you're going to see several titleists from that part of the world. We already got a caller on the chat. Let's go over to the phone lines, guys. 317. You're on the show. Go.
Hey, what's up, Mike? It's Jack Alter. How you doing?
Jack, what's up, brother? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm about to get my license in a month. I know I'm 18, but I'm about to get my driver's license, man.
Awesome, dude. Congrats, brother.
Yes, sir. People keep talking about politics. Some guy asked, if you don't mind me sharing what political side you fall on. I just said, excuse me, I just said the smart side because, a lot of people, I saw something recently, and people can't hate me for this. People were saying Trump said that he's more hated than Lincoln. And people were like, oh, you're not more hated than Lincoln. And then I'm just like, you all are hating on him. They're like saying, oh, fuck you, Trump. You're not more hated than Lincoln. And then he exactly proved their point. So I just thought that was something interesting that I saw lately.
Dude, there's a lot of hatred in general out there, man. I kind of sat back. I didn't tweet a whole lot this weekend. I just kind of sat back and looked at Twitter and watched what people were tweeting and posting. on Instagram, Facebook, all of it. And there's a lot of people that are basically just being fucking parrots right now, just saying what everyone
Yeah.
else is saying, which is nothing new. And then there's a lot of people, and it's going in both directions, that are just spitting a lot of negativity and anger and hate. And they're like, no one's listening. People are just yelling and screaming, but no one's listening. And it's just been a shitty time, man. It's hard not to be kind of depressed about all this shit, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. But one thing I've been doing, I've been like redecorating my room, and a little while back, my dad got me all these old boxing magazines, and I opened up the front page like Boxing Digest, old school Boxing Digest. If you flip like the front cover over to the very first page, there's like little fight posters. I think you knew that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just been hanging them on my wall like you do. So
that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, man.
Dude, yeah. A lot of, like, in situations like this where everyone's just burning the fucking planet down, the best thing you could do is something positive for yourself, even if it's something as small as improving your room, improving your house, improving your body. All those things are positive, and they end up building up and improving the community. And if more people would just focus on themselves and getting their own fucking life together, we'd all be better off. But that's cool, bro. That's cool.
What were you gonna say?
No, I was just saying that's cool, man. I love old school magazines, and like, get them up on your wall like I got here in the studio, bro. It's just inspiring to see all that every day. You know what I'm saying? You'll love it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been watching some Inoue recently, and it was really heartwarming. I don't know if you've seen it. So like, you remember that fight, and just an amazing fight. Like if you're super hardcore, like them hugging at the end after such a hardcore fight would like make you cry. Like that,
bro.
Stuff was so. That fight was so beautiful. And then
you talk about Inoue's fight with Donaire, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Donaire like promised his kids to give him the trophy, and then Inoue lended him the trophy. And I saw the video.
I remember that.
Saying, that was the sweetest thing I've ever seen in boxing history. That was just the nicest thing I've ever seen, that Inoue would do that.
Inoue is a true gentleman. Nonito Donaire is just a true professional. And he started this whole VADA, clean sport thing. He was the first, man. And he paid for all that testing and stuff, 24/7, 365 himself. He didn't just talk the talk, he walked the walk. And the way he conducted himself before, during, and after that fight with Inoue, dude, he's a Hall of Famer in my book. The second he's eligible, he's in, according to, for me. He's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, crap. I just lost my train of thought last second.
Sorry, my bad, dude. That's me just
blabbing. No. Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember now. Okay, so I was on Lukey Boxing on Twitter, like the ITR podcast, and you were on there, so I know you know who it is.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna think this is so stupid. He said that. I was like, yeah, Inoue's like my top 5 pound for pound. Inoue's a beast. And then Lukey was like, well, I think that Inoue's a knockout waiting to happen. And I was like, what? Like,
hey,
how do you figure that?
The one thing about, I don't know.
You're like,
how he gets that, thought, but maybe it comes from the fact that you can touch Inoue. And I think a lot of people thought that Donaire was shot going into that fight with Inoue. But I remember telling everybody, this fight's going to be competitive. Because people thought he was just going to destroy Donaire. And I told everyone, man, Donaire's been fighting at heavier weight classes. He's crazy experienced. He's the best, most experienced opponent Inoue has fought. This is going to be a tough fight, and it's going the distance. And people thought I was nuts. I wasn't the only one who said that, but I was one of the few. And, I wasn't surprised. I was surprised at how great the fight was. It was even better than I expected. But I wasn't surprised at all that Donaire put hands on Inoue. Dude, he's got so much experience. He's been in with everybody. So maybe Lukey is just basing his opinion too much on that last performance. I thought it was a great performance by Inoue. I thought it was one of those things that he's going to be a better fighter. I kind of look at that as like a smaller, weight-wise version of when AJ fought Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko made AJ better. and he's going to be a
Yeah.
better fighter because of that fight and his loss to Andy Ruiz. So I think it's the same thing with that fight with Inoue and Donaire. That Donaire fight, that made Inoue better.
Well, one of the things, yeah, man, that was such an amazing fight. But one of the things that Lukey was saying is if Inoue keeps going up in weight. So how would you feel like if Inoue fought like Shakur Stevenson at like 126? I mean, if that ever happened.
Well, right
Inoue's
now,
too good, bro.
well, Inoue is great. I do think that 122, 126 is going to be the cutoff. He's going to kind of be like Lomachenko do, where he's going to go up so much in weight. I mean, he's a more explosive puncher than Lomachenko, but he's going to go up so much in weight where it's going to count against him. I don't think there should be any rush for him to go up that high in weight. Shakur Stevenson's long and tall, has crazy reach for his weight and everything. I just maybe one day if that's a big fight or something, cool. But right now, dude, Top Rank has enough people at 118 and 122 for the monster to fight. And he's got to like really stake his claim. I hope he stays at 118 for a little while, and then I hope he goes to 122 and stays there for a few years. He needs to hang around at one weight class and kind of like be the man there for a while. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You think? How would you see Inoue versus Rigondeaux?
What weight? Rigondeaux's at 122 right now. I think, you know what? It probably look in some ways kind of like the Donaire fight in the sense that Rigondeaux is so experienced and skilled that I couldn't see in a way just going in there and blasting him out. It's always possible because Rigondeaux's like 800 years old, so it's possible. But if they fought tomorrow, I'd say 12-round distance fight, Inoue beats him. That's what I would say.
Well, you know, the thing is, Inoue can knock anyone out.
Yeah.
Like, look at the body shots. He can knock anyone out. And Rigondeaux's shown a really, like, he's been really chinny. He's been, like, dropped with a jab. You know, I just can't see Rigondeaux. And there was a fight recently. I can't remember. It was the guy's name was, like, it was Rigo versus, like, Dojo or something like that.
Yeah, I remember.
Like,
I know what fight you're talking about. Let me look.
Yeah, and he, like, knocked him out. But he was getting touched up. Like, he was out in his feet in one of the rounds. Wait, let me go.
He like stood. He stood and traded a little bit with that dude. Let me see. Who was it? Liborio Solis.
Ceja.
Oh, you're talking about the Ceja fight before he knocked him out. Oh, okay, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Well, even that Solis fight was close, closer than it probably most people would have thought it'd be. But yeah, the Julio Ceja fight. Both fighters deducted a point for low blows. Ceja down in the 8th round. Yeah. It was crazy, dude. The judges had him down in that fight. All 3 judges. I'm just looking right now. Yeah, all 3 judges had him down in that fight before that stoppage.
And it was a horrible stoppage too. He just got dropped. Like, what do you think? Do you remember that stoppage? Like,
yeah,
he was hit with like a clean left.
I felt like, I felt like dude was hurt and writing was on the wall, but it felt a little premature. Like he was kind of getting bailed out. Like, oh shit, here we go. Let's stop this shit. While we have a chance. It kind of felt like one of those. But yeah, dude, I mean, let's see. How old is Rigondeaux? They list him as being 39. That dude, I'm turning 41 in a week, and I look way younger than this dude. So I don't know about the 39. But yeah, dude, I could see Inoue possibly moving up and stopping him. It's just, and you know what? If something like that did happen, let's say that fight will never happen, number one, because of the politics involved. But if it did, it would be a testament to, again, that fight with Donaire where he learned from that. He kind of learned on the job. He could take the lessons learned in that fight and apply it to somebody like Rigondeaux. He really, really could.
Yeah, I'm going to say I want to give someone else a chance to call, and I'm going to bring up everything I'm saying is completely, like, different topics. But I was talking to Layman, like, how I was saying, were you going to fight anyone after you knocked out Klitschko? And he said, not a lot of people wanted to fight me. And I'm like, what about Holyfield? And he said, Holyfield would fight anyone. Oh, yeah. Well, he said Holyfield would fight me, but Holyfield was like his idol. So, but he said Holyfield would fight like Godzilla. Like Holyfield would not duck anyone ever. So what do you think about that?
Holyfield wanted to fight Klitschko. He wanted to fight Vladimir. There were talks about all that, but the Klitschko's respected him too much and didn't want to do it. I think James Toney reached out to one of them to fight one of them, and there was a similar thing where they were like, dude, I got too much respect for this guy. I don't want to, hurt him. And they didn't want to do it. But yeah, dude, Holyfield, part of what made Holyfield great is he was willing to fight anybody. But at the same time, that might be the reason why I kind of don't want to see him come back, because it's like, dude, you've already taken too much punishment. Like you've proven yourself. You don't need to fight anymore. And I hope he stays out of the ring.
Yeah, you know what's a funny thought that just came to my mind? How would you see Wilder versus Valuev? I know it's totally random,
shit.
But that'd be a funny fight.
That would be a really funny fight. There'd be a lot of flailing and flopping. Valuev was a statue. So I would have to think that Wilder would drop him with a right hand. I just don't know. Could Valuev eat those right hands all night? He did weigh like 100 and something more pounds than Wilder, and Wilder would be punching up at him, so he'd lose leverage. But Wilder's just so much faster and more athletic than Valuev. I'd favor Wilder to knock him out, because Valuev just didn't do anything really, really well. You know what I'm saying? He was huge. But yeah, I'd have to favor Deontay in that one.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. All right, man, I'm going to head out. You have the great rest of your podcast. I'm going to sit here and watch it. All and right, yeah, man, stay safe.
All right, brother.
All right, bye.
All right. There goes Jack, everybody. All right. So, whoa, it's another super chat pledge from Trent. Thanks again, Trent. He says, yo, what are your thoughts on Yulusinov? Very good-looking prospect. Very good. That dude will win titles. I'm trying to think. Boxing Monthly, we did a piece on him. I can't remember what month that was, but pretty soon after he went pro. He only had a couple of fights. We did a piece on him. He says, Trent says, he beat Josh Kelly and Taylor in the amateurs. Yep. I like Giasov and Ergashev more. Title shot time for Ergashev. I don't think Ergashev's ready for a title shot yet, but don't sleep on Yulusinov. I'm telling you right now. I'm gonna look up his. I want to look up his amateur record, because there's more guys that he beat. Because I want to say he was World Series of Boxing as well. Another Kazakh guy. Yeah, he's 9-0 now. He's actually set. Oh, he's wow. Set to fight Julius Ndongo next April. I'm just looking at BoxRec, guys, and yeah. Whoa, let me make sure. I don't know what I just did right there. But he's on the schedule to fight Julius Ndongo April 17th, 2021 at the MGM National Harbor, Oxon Hill. That's really odd, man. That's got to be a typo. Anyway, yeah, World Series of Boxing. He was in the World Series of Boxing as well as a good amateur record. And he fought on the Kazakh team, which crushed it in the World Series of Boxing, obviously. But that dude, I'm telling you, man, southpaw, welterweight, 5'10". That welterweight division that's being dominated by American PBC fighters, 5 years from now, I don't know. You got guys like Yulusinov coming up. You got, of course, Virgil Ortiz, top rank. Already has Terrence Crawford there. They got a couple guys that are going to be moving up from 140. That PBC stronghold on right now on the welterweight division, guys, that's going to go away over the next 5 years. But Yulusinov, 2012 Olympian, 2016 Olympian, that's where he beat Kelly. And he beat Giasov as well to win the gold. That dude's legit, bro. That dude's legit. Wow. So yeah, okay. For whatever reason, BoxRec, I'm just checking it out, but BoxRec has a card slated for Saturday, April 17th, 2021 at the MGM Grand National Harbor Match Room, Eddie Hearn. So Eddie's already lined this up with the MGM for next April. Holy shit. Regis Prograis is going to fight Maurice Hooker. Yulusinov is going to fight Julius Ndongo, which is a great fight for him in his 10th pro fight. Filip Hrgovic is going to fight Journeyman, but he's going to be on that card. Wow, that's crazy. That Uncle Eddie, he's got shit scheduled way out next year already, next April. Craziness. Okay, where was I before Jack's call? Good call, Jack. Good call. I talked to you guys Friday about Ivan Baranchek fighting Jose Zepeda, July 7th, Las Vegas. Do not sleep on that fight. That fight will deliver. Okay. Some of you might not be too familiar with those names. You might not know too much about them, but seriously, seriously good matchup. I see Hamed in the chat said that that card was already penciled in. Yeah, Hamed, that card was supposed to happen this spring, and it got. I'm giving Eddie Hearn props for scheduling that out. I mean, next April, dude, that's almost a year from now. So he's got a card on the books. Pretty impressive. Okay, you guys know about Errol Spence, Danny Garcia. Of course, that's coming up. You're going to get Lomachenko Lopez. Those are both going to be pay-per-view. So CJ Duncan in the chat. What's up, man, with the super chat pledge? Thank you so much, CJ. He says, Montero, be well, brother. Salute to you and Tiff. Same to you and Vicky, man. I hope everything is safe there in Las Vegas. Unfortunately, things got a little crazy here in Atlanta, and we were on lockdown this weekend. We had 2 months of lockdown because of a virus, and then this weekend, Saturday night and Sunday night, we're on curfew because of idiots smashing shit. And I'm thinking, I was telling Tiff, I'm like, baby, we spent all weekend working in our yard. I told you guys, the yard work we're doing. And I'm like, we're improving this house. We're renovating this house, which is going to give added value to our community. We've only lived here in Atlanta for like a year, and we're already adding value to the community here as newbies here. We're, increasing the value of this home, which is going to help this community. The tax base goes up. That's going to help the kids in the schools, the funding for the schools, all that. And we're being punished because of some dumb fucks who want to go loot a cheesecake factory. Did you guys see that? I tweeted about this girl who looted the cheesecake factory. That was in Seattle. By the way, Tiffany's co-worker is from Seattle, knows which cheesecake factory she looted that shit from, and told us that it's been closed because of COVID for a while. So whatever cheesecake she stole, that was an old-ass cake. She probably got sick off that shit. What an idiot. Anyway, all right, tangent. Let's talk about Lance Armstrong. And look, if you guys don't want to talk about this, tell me in the chat and we'll change subjects, okay? But this Lance Armstrong documentary on ESPN, there was only 2 parts. And it followed, of course, that Michael Jordan documentary. That was 10 parts. So this wasn't as in-depth, but I thought it was very, very interesting because there are definitely parallels between Lance Armstrong and Michael Jordan. Not in terms of being cheaters. I'm not saying that. I'm saying in terms of they're almost sociopaths because they're so competitive. They will do whatever it takes to win. You know what I'm saying? They're literally sociopaths. Michael Jordan included. He's a sociopath. I'm not saying that to diss the dude, but it's legitimate. And Lance Armstrong was, for a while, the Michael Jordan of bicycling. And by the way, I don't know dick about bicycling. I don't know shit about it. But I knew who Lance Armstrong was, and that's the whole point. Even people that never watched basketball before know who Michael Jordan is, right? And Jordan really changed the game as far as like how the NBA marketed its product, how athletes marketed themselves as like, with sponsors and things like that. And Lance Armstrong did the same thing with not only with cycling, but he did the same thing with cancer research. And that was the one good legacy that Armstrong had because he started that whole Cancer Research Foundation thing way before he was turned into this fucking bully, right? It was just going after people and suing people and all this. He actually did a lot of good and raised not just millions, but literally hundreds of millions of dollars to help people in this cancer world. So he's such an interesting dichotomy. I tweeted today, Lance Armstrong is an extremely interesting case study in human psychology because he's literally yin and yang at the same time. He did a lot of good work for the cancer stuff. He actually made it not cool. No, it's not cool to get cancer, but okay to publicly talk about it. And they talked about that in the documentary. You guys have seen those tweets where you'll see someone who just got done with chemo, right? And they'll be leaving the hospital for the last time. And as they're walking out, all the doctors and nurses are clapping and giving them a standing ovation. They like ring a bell. You guys have seen those tweets, right? Everyone loves those tweets. It doesn't matter what side you're on politically, what your background is. Everyone loves those tweets. They just make you feel good. Everyone hates cancer. It's universal. That's one thing that unites everybody. And Lance Armstrong, for all the horrible things this guy did, that is one positive, really, really positive thing he did. He was the first, like, quote unquote celebrity, or there's no quotes, he was a celebrity, to make that kind of stuff acceptable, to make it cool to like tweet about your cancer. And I have a cousin right now going through cancer, and she's bald. She just went through chemo. And she posts photos of herself without hair. And, she's a grown woman posting photos of herself bald. And she feels empowered to do that. And Lance Armstrong kind of made that cool. He kind of made it okay. Before him, people kept that shit private. They didn't talk about it publicly. And now people feel empowered to talk about things publicly. So that's a really good thing he did. But at the same time, he was this awful fucking guy that was so invested in winning at all cost, that he would shit on his teammates. He was a bully. He would go after anybody, any journalist that questioned him. There was some girl who I think was either a strength and conditioning coach or like a physical therapist that talked about him, and he went after her. There, a wife of one of his teammates, he went after her. Like he's just nasty. And then I look at Michael Jordan, and that's basically what he was. I know, like, it's become like where you can't say anything bad about Michael Jordan, but he's a fucking asshole. And I'm not just saying that because I'm from Detroit and I grew up hating Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson. But Magic Johnson and Larry Bird have some redeeming qualities. They're nice guys. Michael Jordan's a fucking dick. Everyone that knows him will tell you that. He doesn't have many friends. He was a horrible husband. He's a horrible boyfriend. He's not a very good father and all that because he was so focused on winning at all costs. Everything came second. His family, his friends, and he bullied his teammates. He used his power in the league. The league was basically, David Stern was the commissioner of the NBA at the time, was in business with Michael Jordan, and Jordan could do no wrong. David Stern changed the rules of the NBA and went after the Detroit Pistons on behalf of Michael Jordan. That's basically Lance Armstrong shit. Lance Armstrong just upped it a couple degrees. So you have the same level of sociopath, win at all cost, just fucking tyrannical bully asshole. They're the same dude. The difference is, here's the big difference. Michael Jordan grew up in a loving home with a good father, a wonderful mother, a good father that were around, and he had that love and support from an early age. He has siblings. He's close with them. Lance Armstrong's mother, I think, got pregnant when she was 16. The dad ran out. So this dude grew up in a home with no biological father. The stepdad that raised him cold with no love, kind of raised him almost like in a military way. So Lance Armstrong, same level of sociopath as Michael Jordan, but grew up in a much colder home without his real dad. And you see the effect that had on him. Even to this day, he just seems like a cold dude. I think that there's some redeeming qualities in him. Again, all the good work he's done with the cancer stuff. And he seems to be, generally speaking, a decent father. I don't think he's been very good in relationships, at least while he was cycling. But an awful fucking teammate, a tyrant, right? And it's just so interesting to see a dude like him and just listen to him talk, absorb all that, and see how complex of an individual he is. That he can be so far positive and so far negative, but that drive propelled him to be the best ever at his sport. And here's one thing I'll say about him cheating. Yeah, he doped. But that sport, guys, you think fight sports are dirty? You think the NBA, the NFL are dirty? Dude, cycling is probably the dirtiest fucking sport on earth. They all do it. The dude who comes in last place in the Tour de France definitely is doping. They're all doing EPO. All of them. So basically, Lance was competing on an even playing field with all these other dudes, and he was just better than them. So he was a stud, but he did cheat. but it just tells you the advantage you get from doping. The couple years he wasn't doing EPO, they talked about this in the documentary. I want to say it was the mid '90s or something. He couldn't finish. He finished, but he couldn't compete in the races. He was getting beat. He couldn't place because it's like that 10% difference in doping. That's enough to take you over the edge and make you the champion. So I just found all that very interesting. And you contrast that to boxing, even if you're doing whatever drug it is, and it's giving you only a 10% advantage that helps you cut weight or helps you have energy and stamina late in the fight, rest and recovery is better. That 10% advantage can be what takes you from being a fringe contender level guy to a guy who ends up winning a title and making hundreds of thousands of dollars. It really can make that difference. So it's just interesting the way these things work. There's so many parallels to that whole thing. And there's still a part of Lance Armstrong that I think, I don't know, dude, feels like he's justified in what he did. Had he not been such a fucking bully, had he not tried to come back and just walked away, I think it was 2005 after that 7th Tour de France, had he just walked away and not been such a dick and not been such a bully and not gone after all those people, he probably would have got a pass. You know, people probably would have been like, all right, man, you screwed up, but we forgive you. But because he was such a tyrant, and even now to this day, you can tell he's still kind of holding on to that shit and still feels kind of entitled, not entitled, maybe entitled, but like justified in what he did, even going after people. Like, that's why people don't like him. He's very polarizing, very polarizing. And again, I'll go back to Michael Jordan, who is polarizing in his own way, but generally speaking, Michael Jordan is beloved. For the most part, people respect him and love the guy, even though he's every bit a sociopath, a tyrant, and a bully as Lance Armstrong is. He was every bit as nasty. He was horrible, the things he pulled, right? Look at Isaiah Thomas in the Dream Team in 1992. Again, I'm from Detroit, full disclosure. But if you guys don't think that shit came from Michael Jordan, you're crazy. That's why Isaiah didn't get in the Dream Team. Christian Laettner should have been off. Isaiah should have been on. But because Michael Jordan ran the NBA back then, the way Lance Armstrong ran cycling for like a decade, Jordan got his way. And anyway, just interesting parallels. I love human psychology and just digging into stuff like that. And it kind of brings it full circle. Jay Perez in the chat says Isaiah was a bit of a douche too. Yeah, he was. Okay, I'll fully admit that. You guys, I think I've told you this before. Isaiah Thomas was my hero growing up. I love Thomas Hearns, but Isaiah was my hero. I had every Isaiah t-shirt. My walls had a bunch of Isaiah Thomas posters. He was my idol. He was my favorite player. He was my favorite person. He was it for me. Like, I just was a huge Isaiah Thomas fan. And as I got older and became an adult, I learned, dude, you know, he's kind of a douchebag. There's things about Isaiah that, you know, he's a complicated man, okay? A lot of people don't like Isaiah. They didn't like him when he played. He was a horrible general manager, I think, with the New York Knicks. Has not done very well at the executive level in the NBA. This just does not have a good record there. So I get it. And he was a bully too. Isaiah had a certain amount of power. Was nowhere near what Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan had. But he did kind of have a certain amount of power, particularly in Detroit. And he was a bully. Okay. But I think he got done wrong with that 92 Dream Team, man. He deserved to be on that 92 Dream Team. And it was because of Michael Jeffrey Jordan. But I'm not bitter. I promise. Okay. I see. Now, Piglet Smith says third best point guard. I agree, dude. Well, okay. Best point guard in history has got to be Magic Johnson. And then you can make an argument Isaiah's right there at number 2 and John Stockton's right there at number 3. Think about that, guys. The 3 best point guards in the history of basketball played pretty much in the same era. I'm telling you, man, 80s through mid-90s was the golden era of the NBA. I always have loved boxing, but I was basketball crazy in those years because it was, dude, you had three of the top, probably 5 players, at least 3 of the top 10 best players ever. Jordan, Magic, and Bird, all playing. You had 3 of the best point guards ever. Magic, Isaiah, John Stockton. You had one of the best shooters ever in Chris Mullin. People talk about Steph Curry. Get the fuck out of here. Chris Mullin. Who else? I mean, I can keep going here. I don't want to get off on an NBA tangent, but I'm just telling you, man, being a fan at that time of basketball, you were so spoiled. It's just not the same anymore. It's just not the same anymore. Yeah, I'm not trying to diss Steph Curry, but he's butter soft. He's soft like goo. If he played in that era, see, Chris Mullin could shoot like Steph Curry, but he was also tough and could bang with you in that era. He could go up against the bad boys, the Bulls, the Knicks, and bang with them and still shoot silky smooth. Steph Curry, you breathe on that motherfucker, it's a foul, number one. But number two, oh, my pinky hurts. I need to sit out for a week. That's the modern fucking NBA. These dudes are soft like goo, man. I can't watch that shit. And I will say Jordan kind of started changing the rules that led to the soft-ass NBA we get now. Okay, back to boxing. Robert Blake says, Montero on boxing? Okay, I'll start talking about boxing again. Actually, guys, there's no other news right now. I mean, in terms of boxing, that's it. That's it. So I don't know what, you guys want. I mean, look, man, I talk some NBA. I talk some cycling. Do you want to talk about these protests? Do you want to talk about these riots? Because I have some opinions. But, all right, Mike Mendiola in the chat says, I got some breaking news, Mike. Cool. Mendiola, is that you calling in, bro? I'm going to jump over to this phone call. All right, 317, you're on TNC.
What's up, Mike? It's Jack again.
Jack, I thought that was you. I was like, 317, that's Jack. What's up, man?
Well, was there any other callers?
No. There's no. Hey, Mendiola says he's got breaking. Okay, he's going to text me in private. Okay. All right, man. Text me later. No, go ahead, Jack.
All right, I'm good. You're not going to be like, oh, no, you got all your time on here.
No, hey, man. I said open discussion today. So whatever you guys want to talk about, we'll go as long as you want. I'm chilling. So go ahead, man.
All right, so kind of like unrelated, but like Canelo posted, maybe this is the breaking news this guy was talking about. He posted, how long ago was it? On his Instagram, 33 minutes ago. He says, gotta go to translation. Says, no, it's a picture of him with a black dude saying, no racism. We all deserve the same treatment. Latinos suffer from the same, and this has to stop. And I mean, like, not trying to be political, but Canelo, you're white. Like,
well, he's both, as I said before.
Yeah.
But, well, look, if he wants to be positive and that's his, whatever, cool. But I do think that there's a lot of people posting stuff right now where they're trying to take something that really isn't about them and make it about them. And in my opinion, that's kind of disrespectful to the man that died. Look, This isn't about you, dude. This is about a man who lost his life. Stop trying to like trivialize what happened to this guy and make this shit about you. And Canelo's wrong. The statistics do not back up what he said in regards to interactions with police, arrest rates, and those sorts of things. The statistics show that it does affect one group more than others. And for him to try to lump himself in with that, and by the way, he's a privileged multimillionaire who doesn't even live in America. Like, dude, I understand he's trying to like be inclusive with his post and stuff, but dude, don't make this shit about you. That's my issue with a lot of people right now on social. They're trying to make something about them. That's not about them.
Yeah. Jay Perez said Canelo probably been bullied for being a white, red-haired Mexican. He was apparently.
You think?
Yeah. So
you think he might be insecure about being a white dude who's got red hair because he got picked on his whole life by the mestizo and Indio kids in his neighborhood? You think? Come on, man. Of course he was.
Yeah, there's a 24/7 thing about like Triple G and Canelo, like before their second fight, and they asked like about street fights, and Canelo said like someone was making fun of me or something, like for having red hair, and he said he like pinned him on the ground, and then his like sister picked him up and was saying, Canelo, you're gonna kill somebody. And then Triple G was like asked about a street fight, and he was like I was in the car and a guy got out and he wanted to fight, and I I walk over. I'm like, oh, you want street you want street fight?
You want street fight, my friend?
Yeah. And then they're like, what happened next? And he's like, it's not legal.
Yeah, dude. You want to talk about street fights in that part of the world? Shit.
No. My friend literally said Golovkin probably killed him.
Shit. Well, I'm not going to put anything on record. Hey, I'm just saying. The street fights over in that part of the world, that's a whole different level of street fight. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people think that there's some tough badass because they go throw a brick through a Starbucks window. You're not a badass, dude. You're a pussy. So anyway.
Yeah. Did you see? Yeah. Did you see John Jones walking around? That's what Piglet Smith said. Did you see John Jones walking around stopping vandalism? Lol, they were so scared of him.
Yeah.
So the thing is, people. So go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I saw that. I've seen a bunch of stuff on Twitter, videos that the news is not reporting. They're only reporting certain elements of this whole thing. There's a lot of stuff going on that the news won't talk about.
Yeah, a lot of my friends are going to like the dangerous part. I'm from Indiana, right? And I'm literally telling you, I'm like in the top 30 safest cities in the world. America, like for real. So, but they're going all the way down to Fort Wayne. They're literally like taking their phones, just recording the riots. I'm like, how like stupid can you be to go down there and actually like put your life at risk just to take a video?
Get those clicks, bro. Gotta get those YouTube clicks. I've seen there are members of the boxing community. I'm not going to give names, but there are members of the boxing community who participated in some of the protests this weekend. Now, I don't know if they vandalized things. I don't know if they did anything illegal, but they were there around those people doing that stuff. That's a shame, man. That's a shame. I support everyone's right to protest, if you feel. But again, I just think a lot of people are trying to make something about them when they should be focused on the people involved and making things better for the people involved, not making some shit about you. And that's just what social media is about, though, dude. It's about getting those endorphins when people like your shit. So people are parrots. They tweet, they post what everybody else is saying so that they can get social brownie points. And that shit just angers me, man.
All right, I wanted to get some. So I'm not trying to like nut hug you here, but you're really accurate with your predictions. Like very, very accurate. And I wanted to get your opinion on some fantasy matchups. All right. So we got Frazier versus Tyson.
Prime Tyson. That's a really good matchup. Damn, dude. That's a really good matchup. That's probably a distance fight. I'm going to take Mike by decision.
Yeah, well, the thing is, we saw like Frazier against Foreman. He's just this come forward fighter, and like Frazier's not as like defensively good as Tyson, and I just think Tyson would actually like roll through him. Actually, like being honest, like and Frazier's an amazing fighter, but just style wise, I think Tyson's horrible for him.
Yeah, the style. I mean, you can't really compare him to Foreman, but just Tyson kind of did a lot of things that Frazier did, only better. Just more explosive, faster, more athletic. And Frazier, because of the era he fought in, and because he has a legit W over Ali, I know this is going to sound blasphemous. I think some people overrate Frazier. I think Frazier was a great heavyweight, but I think some people overrate him because they got to justify that Ali's L to him. It's just the reality, but that's just my opinion.
I 1,000% agree. No Tyson to Floyd Patterson never existed. That's what Captain Crotch had said.
No Tyson.
Oh, because Customato.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
All right, 154, 2013, Floyd Mayweather versus Gennady Golovkin.
Ooh.
Can I say something here?
Oh, go ahead.
All right, so the thing is, do you actually think, no, even though Floyd's like amazing defensively, do you think he could actually like avoid most of Triple G's jabs? I don't think he could. His jab's simply too quick for like anyone.
Well, I think he time them. he'd time them and he'd slip a lot of them. But I just think size and energy and everything would play a factor in that fight. And if you have a 12-round fight there at 154 with that prime version of Golovkin rolling downhill on a older Floyd, I'm picking Gennady in that fight. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that, but I just would. Now, yeah, dude, like just because Golovkin is not a big middleweight, but he'd be a big 154, a big, powerful, sturdy 154. He'd roll downhill, and he'd have enough body work and different angles. He'd jab to Floyd's chest, and he'd also, when Floyd would make adjustments to that, he'd start jabbing to the shoulder. He'd start feinting. He'd start jabbing to the body. He'd start looping his shots up top. He'd had enough variety at that time with his size and his pressure style. I think he'd beat Mayweather at that time. I just do.
Yeah, Dan Rafael tweeted recently saying, and this got a lot of hate because people got to hate on Golovkin, but he said no one in history, no middleweight in history walks through Golovkin. And I was saying to everyone, the only middleweight who probably beats Golovkin is Roy Jones Jr., but that would be a close fight still.
Well, on any given night, several middleweights throughout history could beat him. It's just, prime for prime, and then you get into all that kind of discussion. But I agree with Dan Raphael. I saw that tweet. Nobody, and like that shouldn't be a controversial statement. Who out there thinks somebody like Hopkins or whatever would just roll through Golovkin?
A lot of people do, actually.
That's ridiculous. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, they're just haters. Okay, I'm going to tell you something, and people in this stream that is very, well, you might know this. Did you know, I don't know if this is bad news, but Golovkin actually had corona in the Derevyanchenko fight.
No, I haven't heard that.
Let me tell you something. I'm not going to say who it is. I can text you personally, but Kazakhstan's right next to China, right?
It's pretty close, yeah.
No, they're touching each other.
Okay.
And a guy I know well in the media, he not media, it's a fighter. He also said secretly, he said not to tell anyone because I called him in a thing I had, and then he called me after saying he thinks Golovkin had corona, and he did, but he was hiding it. And this was February. He had it, but he was hiding it. Okay, I'll say he's a Golden Boy fighter. That's all I'll say. And he was saying how a lot of Triple G's friends around the time were very sick too. And I was like, that, okay, what boxing per se?
Look, the timeline of that, I'm not saying it's outside the realm of possibility, but that fight with Derevyanchenko was October 5th. And
yeah,
that's around the time that they think that it started, but it started in a very particular part of China that's not touching Kazakhstan. I understand the country border of China does, but not that area of Wuhan, unless I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong here. But I just, look, I'm not saying it's outside the realm of possibility. However, that's until we see some evidence or something, that's a conspiracy theory, bro. Huh?
Do you see the chat? See what I put?
Yeah, I see the chat. Well,
I don't want to say it out loud because he was secretive about me, but he had it in February, and that he said it was horrible. He actually had it, but he kept it really secret, and he didn't even tell Oscar or anyone besides his coach.
Well, there's if that person had it, I mean, I think there's millions of Americans. I mean, just speaking of here in America, that had it and either don't know they did, or now they're looking back and thinking, "Damn, I think I had COVID." So there's a lot more of it out there than people realize. It's just the death rates. Remember, dude, weren't they saying something like 20 million Americans were going to die or something? It was some crazy statistic, and it's not what a lot of people made it out to be. But either way, it's clear Gennady Golovkin was sick for that Derevyanchenko fight. He was not healthy. But that's still, it ended up being one of the fights of the year. It was a great fight. And I think that's a really good win that's going to age well for Triple G.
One of the things, and I think you can possibly agree with this, in the Rosado fight, he had the flu. So, you knew that, right?
Yeah.
In the Rosado fight, we saw how messed up his face got. And I think when Golovkin's sick, and they also showed in the Dara fight, I don't think he puts everything into his punches. This is just me. You see how messed up these guys' faces are, like Rosado and Derevyanchenko. I think when he's sick, he doesn't try and go, he's boxing, obviously, but I don't think he's putting everything into his punches. That's why, Derev would have been knocked out if he was putting everything into his shots. But just look at their faces. Rosado,
a lot of that comes down to your skin, bro. I mean, Rosado cuts when the air blows on his face. I love Gabe, but he's a cutter. He's a bleeder. But I think that if Gennady had fought Derevyanchenko 2015, 2016, he probably would have stopped him then. This version of Gennady, he's going to box a little bit more. He's going to try to conserve energy a little bit more. He's not going to be that seek and destroy type of dude. And let's give Derevyanchenko some credit, man. He fought well in that fight. He landed a body shot that buckled Gennady's knees. It was a great performance from Derevyanchenko. He hurt him with that body shot, dude. I don't remember what round it was.
Let's not talk about that, Mike.
Well, look,
don't
man.
Talk about that.
Gennady took it. Gennady took it and kept coming. A lot of dudes would have folded. So, I mean, to me, both those guys' stock went up in that fight. It was just a great fight. But you can't always judge a fighter based on the way his face looks. You just can't.
No, yeah, you're right. Also, I was able to DM Derevyanchenko, and you know what he actually said? Because, he's actually pretty open on Twitter. I said, let's see what it said. You're the first guy to ever wobble him in 390 fights amateur pro to the body, but would you say he has one of the best chins ever? And he said, maybe yes. That's literally what Derevyanchenko said. I got screenshots.
Yeah, I believe he would say that. He's a pretty honest guy.
That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah. I mean, he nailed Gennady with some hard shots. So is Canelo. Jacobs hit him with some hard shit. And all those guys can punch pretty well. So, yeah. To me, what was most impressive was him taking that body shot. That was impressive. And he took some hard body shots from Canelo, too. And, man, I'm telling you, getting hit hard to the body, you have to dig really deep to get through those moments. And he was able to do that. So, again, man, I might need to punch up that fight and watch that again. Because I ain't seen that one in a while. That was a damn good fight. What else you got, man? I got what's up?
Piglet Smith said I wobbled Triple G, but the cameras weren't rolling. Sorry.
I love it. Oh, he also says Derevyanchenko beat him. Oh. Yeah, well, I thought Golovkin won that fight. It was very close, but Golovkin, with that knockdown, won the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Derevyanchenko, I still see him. I asked him about fighting Charlo, and I said, this is the first DM I said, hey, Cham, I hope to watch you KO Charlo soon. Hopefully he doesn't duck you. He said, hello, Jack. I think it can be a great fight as well. And then, so I think he beats Charlo because I think Charlo is a bit, overrated. Yeah, I'm going to say that.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Both the brothers.
Yeah, I think that the thing with Derevyanchenko, dude, is we just don't know how he's going to look because he took a lot of punishment in that Golovkin fight. I don't know if he's going to be the same. He had a tough, grueling fight with Jacobs, but an even more grueling fight against Golovkin. And I just don't know if he's going to be the same dude after that. If he is, then I agree. I agree that he could absolutely beat Charlo.
Yeah. All right, do you have another caller?
Yeah, I was going to say, man, I got another guy here in the queue, so let me jump over to this call.
All right, you take it easy.
All right, bro, you too. Now, let's jump over to this other call here. All right. 570, you're on the show. Go.
Hey, yeah, this is Max from Facebook, Thad, actually. So I said I was going to give you a call. And, you're on my favorite topic right now, and that's Golovkin.
All right. It's good to hear from you, man. Go ahead. Shoot, bro. This will be the Golovkin show.
Should be every time. But anyway, I was watching this. Yeah, I was bored this weekend watching his fights. I've always respected what this guy brought to the table, not only in toughness but skill. And so many people underrate his skill level and his ring IQ. The way he generates power, it's through the art of shifting. And if you, I know you know what that is, but Jack Dempsey did it and Roberto Duran did it. Two of my all-time favorite fighters. They're able to get that power on the front foot and land from awkward angles with punches you would never think had the type of power on those punches, because it's just not natural to have that much power on just punches that you would be able to generate power angles. It's so insulting to hear that boxing fans would think certain fighters like a Roy Jones would beat a Golovkin. I know we all have opinions, but it's my opinion that Triple G would walk down Roy Jones and he would break him down. And that was steroid era Roy Jones. Okay.
That's fair.
And yeah. And I call it like I see him. Look, there's steroids everywhere, but that Roy Jones was a freak of nature because of the drugs.
Well, there was a freakish amount of talent, though, too. Let's be honest. I mean,
there was.
The steroids enhanced everything, but at 160,
like Barry Bonds.
What's up?
Like Barry Bonds, he was a 335 a year hitter out the steroids. With the steroids, he hits like 60.
Right.
So it's kind of like along those lines. But the thing we saw with Jones at the end of his career was that he was very vulnerable to punchers and pressure. Even in his prime, a guy like Triple G would come in with that jab and just stonewall him. So accurate with that, he just controls fighters with the jab. And when you have a chin the way Golovkin has, even past his prime, and we never saw a prime Triple G fight in the United States. Because I watched some of his old fights in Germany. That guy was aggressive. He was like Roberto Duran, except 30 pounds bigger. So it's just painful to hear boxing fans that kind of underrate Triple G and not give him the credit where credit is due. It's a thing of beauty if you're a boxing fan.
Well,
and
I think it's one thing to look, if someone has an opinion that Roy Jones beats Gennady Golovkin, or in your case, you feel Golovkin beats Jones, that's fine to have an opinion. But I'm cool with that. But like as you said, for people to just discount the skill level, and I think this happens unfairly with a lot of Mexican fighters. Again, I'll go back to when Orlando Salido fought Francisco Vargas. That was an amazing fight with a lot of skill, a lot of brutality, but a lot of skill. And I saw people on Twitter dissing that fight, saying it was, bum fights, two journeyman, skillless brawlers. And I'm like, what are you watching, dude? Not everyone's going to have the style of Pernell Whitaker or Floyd Mayweather, and that shouldn't be held against them. People have different styles. But, dude, I don't know if you've go to Lukey Boxing's channel, and I did I did a show with him recently where he wanted to do a deep dive on Gennady Golovkin's career. And he reached out to me because he knew I was kind of along for the ride in LA during those years when Gennady came over here and it kind of blew up. And so he brought me on, and we just basically talked about Golovkin's career for like an hour. And one of the things we talked about was his skill set and the things he does that I think people just don't see. When people think defense, they think Sweet Pea, they think Whitaker. And obviously, he was a genius, okay? They think Willie Pep. He was a genius. But there's other forms of defense. And sometimes staying in the pocket and catching a shot and then shooting over your shot or whatever, that's a form of defense, And so people, I think, discount a lot of fighters' skills, and it's unfair.
Yeah, and the perfect example of what you just said was in the Danny Jacobs fight.
Yeah.
And, you guys spoke about facial damage. Golovkin was clean. His face was clean after that fight. And the reason why, he parried a lot of those punches. He ducked under a lot of those punches. And he wasn't taking the full blow, except when he got hit in the body a couple times. He took the full thrust of the punch. But that fight was a thing of beauty on Golovkin's defense. And it's amazing how people can misconstrue that fight and say, oh, well, it was a close fight, he lost, this and that. I mean, these are just, the typical boxing haters from the LDBC saying that. But he doesn't get the credit he's due. It's just, and he was past his prime that time. And also he was outweighed about 20 pounds by Danny Jacobs that night. That was the infamous 48-hour rehydration.
Right, the IBF. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
And I think that was also due to, I think it was the St. Patrick's Day parade. They had to move the weigh-in early. So I want to say the weigh-in, it was the earliest weigh-in I've ever been to. We had to get over there, I think at like 9 a.m. to set up and everything. It was really, really, so Danny Jacobs had all that time. And it wasn't like he rigged this. It was because of the parade, but it worked to his advantage, It's not like Danny Jacobs' promotion said, oh, let's, move the weigh-in earlier. No, that was the bear and everyone involved that needed to block off streets. But, all that worked to his advantage. And the one thing, Golovkin, I think in that situation, Golovkin realized, okay, I'm not faster than this guy. I'm not taller. I'm not longer. I'm older than him. I'm slower than him. I'm going to have to move through here and eat shots on the way in. But as you said, parrying the shot, slipping with the shot, rolling and moving with the shot, pivoting, to get punches sliding and slipping off of you, to get yourself in position to land your shots, that is a skill. It might not look as beautiful, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it may not look as pretty to some people as Mayweather's shoulder roll, making a guy like Robert Guerrero miss, or Marcos Maidana miss. It might not look as pretty as that to them, but it's just as effective. It worked for Golovkin. And, people like...
And it's still working.
It's well. Let's see how he looks in this next fight.
38-year-old man.
He's an old 38 too. He's an old 38.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of guys in the top 10 pound for pound right now, or who are right on that bubble, who have that sort of defensive style. Like, not everyone has elite level head movement. I remember going into the gym at times, and I'd try to do all this freaky head movement and shit. It's one thing to feint, but like, I can't slip 8 punches in a row with head movement.
Yeah.
And my coaches would be like, "What are you doing? You're not that fast. Stop. Put your hands up and block the damn shot. Parry the shot."
And when you do that, you put yourself out of position. Okay. But Mike, like, if you want to look at somebody who did that perfectly, was Mike Tyson. He would be able to come in, bob and weave, move his head, and make you miss. And when you miss, and even the other fighters would quote this, it's your butt. Like, if you miss, it's over. Because then he's in perfect position to counter. Not a very small amount of fighter can actually do that, to put himself in a position after you miss and then lay into a shot with full power and get you out of there. That's what he did. But that was a young man style, the peekaboo defense. Tyson's style was made for a young man. And
a very fast, a very athletic young man. Not everyone can pull that off the same way, but there's different forms of athleticism. There's different forms of skill. And, it's interesting you bring up Golovkin against Jacobs. I think it was Daniel Geale that he knocked out while Geale landed a punch. I think it was Geale.
Yeah. Right when he landed a punch, yeah.
But because Golovkin was in better position, because he had positioned himself, because he was on his front foot moving forward, Geale was moving backwards, you saw the difference in how those punches landed and the effect that they had. And that's an example of superior skill beating out inferior skill. Right there is an example of it. And it might not look as pretty again as, oh, I'm going to sit on the ropes and make you miss and then tap you a couple times and dance away. But he got the dude out of there. It was effective. It worked for him. That style doesn't age as well, though. That is true.
Yeah. That goes without saying. And that's a shame. Because like I said earlier, we, in America, we truly never did see the young version of Golovkin when he was an animal. And he had it all. Maybe not as much experience in big fights, obviously, but just the sheer, like his attack style was something to admire. I can't see many fighters in history holding up to that, at least in my history. I'm from 75 and on. Okay. But maybe the only fighter, at least, in our time, that would give him a battle heads up would be Hagler and James Toney, an in shape James Toney. Those are the only guys that would be able to fight him on those terms and maybe come out slightly ahead or even. Anyone else, they wouldn't be able to stand that pressure and power. And and I'm an expert on Golovkin's fights and a lot of other guys too. That's my opinion. And it just stinks that people dislike Golovkin because of things outside of boxing.
And, unfortunately, there's a lot of that going around, man. Look, I could say the same thing about Chocolatito. Chocolatito.
Yeah.
People need to go back and look at some of his fights. That fight against Juan Francisco Estrada, I've said it a bunch of times. That might be the best win of the decade in terms of how it aged. Because Juan Francisco Estrada is still, I think, a top 10 pound-for-pound level fighter right now, a decade later, basically. That guy, you want to talk about being able to do everything. Holy shit. And because he doesn't necessarily fight with a defensive style and everything, and he's not American, there are people that disregard Chocolatito's accomplishments. It's unfair.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I can understand that a little bit because, again, not a lot of people pay attention to the lower weight divisions like that. I mean, but again, the only fighter that I could say I really appreciated below, like in that weight level range, was Chiquita Gonzalez.
Oh, yeah.
And his fights against Carbajal.
Mm-hmm.
And
I got Carbajal on my wall back here. I gotta see. He's back here. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Awesome fights.
But those were great fights, and that kind of put those divisions on the map. That was the first $1 million fighter, Carbajal, in that weight division history.
That's right.
So, but again, it's a shame a lot of people don't pay as much attention to those classes because we all relate to what we are, and most Americans walk around between 160 and 200 pounds. So we kind of, pay more attention to people like us. But again, it's great examples you bring up. I could talk Golovkin all day. I don't know if you have any more callers, but, I just really wanted to get that through to you. And one other thing, when you put Bob Bennett in his place at that press conference, that was a thing of beauty, not because, it was, shaming anybody. It's because finally someone had the the Keonis to stand up and say, hey, this is BS. This is destroying our sport. This is making a mockery, of our livelihoods. And that scorecard, she should not be allowed to ever score a fight in boxing again. And what they did to Golovkin that night, I mean, that's how it, to say it's highway robbery is an understatement. That kills a lot of our spirit as boxing fans to see that. He was robbed of a victory against Canelo. And in his history, I don't know how it's gonna age on that if people are gonna ever really know what happened that night. But he dominated a Canelo Alvarez, who's probably a top 3 fighter right now. And and that goes without saying. And to see politics get in the way, of a fighter's crown jewel victory at that age, he think he was like 35, 36 at the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just, you know what I'm saying. But for you to stand up there and give it to them without any, recourse of action, because a lot of these people are political and they may, say, hey, well, you're not going to get access to this event anymore. I just want to say, that you're a stand-up guy, and we need more guys like you in the media in general, not just boxing.
Thank you.
Just in general.
Thank you, brother.
Okay?
I appreciate that.
So keep up the good work, and just, just don't change your style or who you are, because politics, I'll tell you, it changes a lot of people. I've seen better men bow down to the power.
Yeah.
And we're in a situation now where that's, truly, on display.
Absolutely.
So again, great show. And, I'll be talking to you again soon.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Have a good night, brother.
You too.
All right. Great call. Great call. Awesome stuff, man. Awesome stuff. All right, guys. Well, I see it. Well, now we got everyone arguing about Golovkin and Canelo in the chat. You know, one thing about that fight, um, regardless of all the politics and all the buildup, and seeing decades of work by a person get taken away from him, what should have been his signature moment by an inept, if not corrupt, organization. Um, it's the 2020 hindsight people are having now, because now people with agendas are going, "Oh, well, I scored that first fight for Canelo." No, you didn't. Shut up. No, you didn't. Okay. I remember one thing I do that might be a little different than other members of the fight media. I actually look at the comments section, and not just on my stuff. If I watch another video, someone else's podcast, whatever it is, I go and I look at the comments. I do it with every video I watch, every article I read, whether it's on Ring TV or another site. If I go to Boxing Scene, if I go to ESPN, whatever it is, I look at the comments. I look at your guys' tweets, but a lot of times I'll look at a tweet and I'll open it up and I'll look at the thread. I like to get an idea of what you guys, the fan community, are thinking and what your feelings on something are. Because I like to feel like I have a finger on the pulse, on the heartbeat of the fight fan. And I know a lot of people in the media don't do that. They'll look at a video, they might watch a video, they might read an article, whatever, and they just move on. I like to look at the comment section. I like to really dig in and see what people are thinking. And I remember after that, even people who didn't like Golovkin felt that he had got effed. I've already said fuck on this show. They felt he got fucked. I remember there were LDBC members actually defending me for going after Bob Bennett because they hated Bob Bennett more than they hated Golovkin, at least at that time. So there's a lot of revisionist history now. And I've said this before too. Had the decision went the way it should have in the first fight, had Golovkin won 116, 112 like he should have, or even if it was a split decision, let's say Adelaide Byrd scored in a draw or whatever it is, and he ended up getting the decision, majority decision win, okay? People wouldn't have been as pissed off at the scorecards in the second fight. But I think people were really pissed off because you guys got to remember, over a 2 or 3 year period there, you had a situation with that first Canelo Kovalev fight, or I'm sorry, Canelo Golovkin fight, and the first Ward Kovalev fight, where Vegas, establishment fighter versus anti-establishment or non-establishment fighter. North American power structure based fighter versus quote unquote Russian fighter. And I know Golovkin's only half Russian, but both times, most people feel there was an injustice. So there was this nasty taste in people's mouths. So going like the rematch between Ward and Kovalev was extremely polarized for all sorts of reasons, okay? But it was loaded because of the decision in the first fight. But that fight, I think, was closer than Canelo Golovkin, their first fight. And I know this issue's been this horse it's a dead horse and it's been beat to hell. I get it. But I really do think if they got the decision right that night and the right man had won, when Canelo won, I think it was 115, 113 in the second fight, yes, Golovkin fans would have said, oh, no, our guy won. But I think most moderate, objective observers would have been like, it's 1-1 now. It's split. That's what would have kind of been justice. And I think that same thing with the Ward and Kovalev situation. Had Kovalev got the decision in the first fight and kept his titles, and he went into that rematch and he could make the demands, and he could tell Ward, no, you're singing to my tune, and he had a little more power and privilege on his side as the champion going into that rematch, things would have been a little more on even terms, both behind the scenes and in front of the cameras. And had Ward still went low 500 times and knocked out Kovalev's testes, people still would have been pissed, but they wouldn't have been as pissed. I think that's often the issue is, boxing, we are a fringe sport. We're the redheaded stepchild of sports. And when there's only a handful of times a year when the mainstream is looking at us, that was what I was most pissed off about with Canelo and Golovkin and why I went off on Bob Bennett. Because that was the one time that year, and I think like the first time since the Mayweather Pacquiao debacle, that everyone was watching boxing. Everyone, right? That night. The biggest event in sports that week, maybe even that month, not boxing, in sports at that time, was this fight. It was the biggest sporting event of that time. And everyone was looking at us, and we fucked it up. And I include myself in that because I'm part of the community. And you guys are too. We fucked it up. So everyone's looking at us already. Guys, everyone always hates on boxing. Everyone. The mainstream guys, they look at us as this dysfunctional, fucked up cousin or whatever, this dysfunctional family member that occasionally they'll talk to and hang out with, but we annoy the shit out of them and they just don't like us. So when we screw it up, they're like, oh, see, that's why I don't mess with boxing no more. It just gives them an excuse. And I remember hearing the scorecards and thinking, the celebrities, the late night talk show hosts, all these people are just going to take this and run with it and beat the shit out of our sport even further. And sure enough, I remember going on Twitter and people like Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said something like, this is why I don't watch boxing. It's corrupt, right? And it got thousands of retweets. Do you think Aaron Rodgers knows what the fuck he's talking about? No. He's a fucking simp. He's a fucking casual. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about when it comes to boxing. But guys like him, LL Cool J, Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, all piled on. And so everyone was beating the shit out of boxing. And that, guys, that can only happen so many times. We get pushed further and further and further under the surface every time we screw something like that up. It's bad enough that we screw it up when the diehards are looking, which happens a lot, right? We talk about that kind of stuff a lot. But when the mainstream is looking at us, we got to get it right. We have to get it right. And the one thing, the reason why I trolled so hard after Tyson Fury knocked out Deontay Wilder is because that was an event where the mainstream was paying attention to us and we got it right. We got it right. There was no controversy, right? It was just a great fight. The ref, I didn't like the refs. He could have done a better job, but it was just two guys fighting. It was a conclusive finish. Tyson Fury promised he'd do something and he did it. Oh God, Cody in the chat and Tim Nick are going to go nuts because I mentioned Deontay Wilder. But when the excuses followed, that took something where it was like, and then all the Glovegate stuff, and Deontay has not said anything about the Glovegate stuff. That's all his fans doing that. But when all that followed, I'm like, dude, you're taking something that we got right. We had the mainstream looking at us, and we did it right. It was a great event. It didn't just live up to expectations. It exceeded them. We had the most important sporting event of that week, that weekend, whatever, and we fucking crushed it. It went great. And then there's all these fucking morons messing it up. And all these conspiracy theories and all this crazy shit. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? You're taking the one instance in recent years where we actually got it right, and you're screwing it up, dude. Mayweather Pacquiao, a complete shit show. The Canelo Golovkin, horrible decision, injustice. Kovalev Ward, nowhere near that level of fight, but we screwed it up. People were looking at that fight. You had Mayweather McGregor, which was a scripted, comedy, right? You had all of these things where we screwed it up in some way, shape, or form, and then boom, we knocked this shit out of the park, and these fucking idiots on Twitter, on YouTube, screw it up. All these crazy conspiracy theories, all this racial shit that didn't belong there. Damn it. So even if the commission and the media and everybody gets that shit right, assholes on YouTube will screw it up. So on that note, keeping in line with everything else that's going on in our country right now, we'll just end it on that. We've been going here for about an hour and a half. I hope you guys enjoyed the chat. I see a bunch of you are arguing now in the chat. That's awesome. Keep at it, guys. Have fun. Keep that energy. I know there's two guys. Tim Nick, I'll go ahead and give you a shout out, and Cody 8804. If I mention Deontay Wilder, oh shit, they're gonna lose their mind. So the comments on this vid are gonna be fun. Anyway, guys, let's go ahead and let's get that outro music playing. You guys know the song. You know the song. There it goes. All right. So look, if you guys want to hear about some of my thoughts and feelings on the protests, the riots, and how I stand on all that stuff, let me know. Let me know in the comments section. Tweet me, DM me, and maybe I'll do a rant video on that subject later this week so I can keep it real specific. So if you don't want to hear about that shit, you ain't got to watch it. But you guys know I have opinions, and I don't mind sharing them. Anyway, guys, I'll see you at the fights. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other.